1942. I was sitting on my step. This here white man came to my house and said, "Hey, little boy, is your mother and father home?" I said, "No, my mother's home." He said, "Can you speak to your mother?" Back in the days, a man didn't go into your house unless a man was there. So my mother came out on the step. He said, "I want to talk to you and your husband about something." When Daddy came home, the man came to my house and we came and sat on the steps. And so the man told my mother, "If your husband don't come to the house and I stop coming to the house, she can get $15 a month." Some kind of welfare thing. A lot of the people took it up. Pretty soon the woman's out there cheating, the man is out there cheating. Because we lost, they broke up the male responsibility of the household. That's why we all welfare today. Every generation of generation. That's when welfare started. 1943, that's when the white man came to my mother's house and told my mother and father, if they separate, he don't live there no more, we can get $15 extra a week. You got the great-grandmother on welfare, the grandmother on welfare, the mother on welfare, the children on welfare, and the grandchildren on welfare today.
This video was sent to me by one of my followers, subscribers, a person who watches my content. And I watched the video because, like I said, I saw the title above the video and I said, this seems interesting. Let me go ahead and watch this. But then as I was watching and listening to it and everything that he was saying, I said, that is crazy, because it's very rare that you get to hear from the words of a person who was there and experienced this as a child. Like, they actually saw the welfare system hanker down or hammer down on the black community in real time and its inception. You know, now of course we've seen it after it's been around for generations. It's been around for a long time. So to actually hear from somebody, an elder who has actually seen it actually occur and begin in their lifetime, as in when they were born, and they can remember it, is crazy. Especially the part when they said an extra $15 a week. Now you got to think, back in 1943, that was a lot of money. Especially if you were not living in a certain condition. If you were living in certain conditions, $15 is a lot of money. And I think adjusted for inflation, I think I read somewhere that adjusts to about $300 today. So you got to think, they said $15 a week. That paid for a lot, because you got to think a lot of stuff was very cheap back then. Like, you can get a lot with $15 could stretch way further back in 1943 than it ever could in 2024. So I was looking at the video and I was just sitting there like, wow, it's just amazing, you know, to hear from someone who actually experienced this, actually talk about this. And then I looked over in the comment section, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I wish I had it, and you're about to see why I said that. So as you can see, like right here, like I said, I went through the comment section and I literally scrolled through that entire comment section. There was a lot of comments, and I came across 13 of them, and I knew I was probably reaching towards the end of it, because they started to repeat, they start to loop. And on Instagram, that's what they start to do when you get toward the end, especially with a lot of comments. They begin to loop themselves, and the rest are just basically replies to the comments. That's what stretches the comment section out. But you're seeing a string of comments being left, hence why I titled the video Dismissive Behavior. And when you look at the description, it matches up. You had a bunch, or pretty much most of the people that left these kinds of comments were black women. And like I told you, I wasn't even being biased, because there was one comment by a black male in here that lines right up with what some of these women were saying about what this man was saying. How are you going to get online on this app and dismiss everything this man was saying like you were there? Remember, this guy was a child when all of this kicked off. He knows, because they came to his home and they literally told them to their face what they were planning to do. You were not there. He was there since the beginning, in the inception of this, and for you to sit up there and completely dismiss this man's, who, by the way, is old enough to be their great grandparents, or at the very least their grandfather, is absolutely disgusting and disturbing. See, I don't hold back over here when people in our community do stuff like this. I really don't. To sit up there and actually completely push aside what this man was saying. And then people were checking him in the comment section. And to give a little bit more context, there were some black women in there that were checking people like the ones leaving these comments and telling them about themselves, saying like some of the women in these comments are absolutely disgusting. Now, it's funny, because if this was happening, or if this was something that was affecting mainly black women, they would be out in droves ready with trying to say, oh, how come, black men don't defend us, and how come this? They would start and try to kick off the whole gender war thing in the comment section and be completely dismissive of their behavior, or that's what they'll tell themselves. Like, for instance, this comment right here, this person's trying to tell him that he's lying. How would you know? As a matter of fact, I'm more inclined to believe him because the way he broke it down is exactly how it's been told. I even saw people leave comments in the comment section said I believe him, and started breaking down their stories. And a lot of their stories came like in the 80s. They're talking about 40 some odd years later, and it was still going on. One was even as far as the 90s. So now you're going into 50 years later. So to sit up there and try to say that this man is lying because it doesn't feed your ego. See, the thing what it is they don't like this narrative because then it puts the spotlight back onto them, and it's not the spotlight that they want. And that is, why did black women accept it? Because they had a choice to not accept that extra $15, because really they didn't come there to talk to the man of the house. They came to talk to the woman, the one that they knew wasn't really working like that or working at all, and they knew she would take it. See, that's the thing. They don't like having that mirror of accountability being held in front of their face. And this is them projecting in this comment section by sitting up here trying to tell this man, say that he's lying or he's making it up. No, that's not being made up. Just like you, some of the women in your family accepting that $15 extra a week is not a lie either. Let's talk about it. There was a whole movie that came out in the 70s with Diane Carroll and James Earl Jones called Claudine. I'm sure many of us who are watching this or listening right now have heard of, at least if they have not seen the movie. And we know what happened in that movie. That was a reality for a lot of black people back in the day. And that was in the 70s. So you're thinking about if the welfare system kicked off in 1943 and it started to affect black people back then in 1943, and that movie came out in the early 70s, that means they were about almost 30 years or about 30 years into that system. And it hasn't stopped since. It's still going on to this day. They might dress it up a little bit different. Back then it was like paper. Now it's on a card. And now it has various different names. SNAP, WIC, food stamps, EBT. You name it, that's pretty much what it is. Back then they just simply called it government assistance. But what did they say? The man could not be in the household because if he was, you would not receive it. That was the beginning of the breakdown of the black family structure. And for a lot of these women to come into this comment section and completely dismiss what this man is saying and dismiss his experience is exactly why a lot of them dismiss their experience right now. Like I said, for added context, there were other women in the comment section that were checking these women for saying the stuff that they were saying, and I'm glad that they were. For the most part, all the men, with the exception of that one comment that I put up there, were all pretty much checking them too, and on this man's side, because they know they know what this system is all about. And trust and believe, if it wasn't government assistance to break down the black family structure, they would have found something else, because that's just what they are. They would have found another way to do it. But they said, you know what, to kind of ease it in, we're going to have it where we'll start with ours first. Because remember, government assistance didn't start with black people first. They didn't give welfare to black people first. It started with their own first. And then they eased it in with black people. And for some reason, it stuck more heavily with black people, or did it? Because if you look at the numbers of even today, we can tell and we know who receives the most government assistance out of any other group, including us. But the way that they frame it, they have to make black people the face of it. But they had to make sure that when they gave black people that government assistance back in the day, that it hit a little bit different. It had a little bit of staying power. As we can see in 2024, it's still here. So it worked like a well-oiled machine for them. They bring something out, they started off with them, then they bring it to us, they ramp it up with us, and then they keep it with us, and then make us the face of it. Just the same with not affirmative action, Abortions started with PC women, and then they brought it over to black women, and then they tried to make black women the face of it, but that one is kind of iffy. And don't forget about feminism. Started with PC women, and they brought it over to black women, and then they tried to make them the face of that too. I mean, are you seeing a pattern? Black women, I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. Every example that I just gave in the last 2 minutes, they always used you as the manipulative figure. As in, we can easily manipulate them. Nowhere did they ever go after the black man to do that, because they knew they couldn't get them, and they knew it wouldn't work with them either. They played many of our black women, especially back in the day, like a fiddle, and it worked like a charm, and it's still working today. These comments are proof of that. But I'm glad this elder spoke out about his experience and told it like it is, despite those comments. And the crazy part about it is, I bet you none of those clowns in that comment section would have the nerve to go into that man's face and actually say the words that they said in them comment sections. That's why they have social media, because people can be whatever they want online, but in person, they probably wouldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight.